très fort. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, we can hear you clearly. Very nice.
great.
So we will start in around 4 to 5 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, so much for your understanding of my unexpected situation. I truly appreciate it. To Jack, Sheshe, and thank you. I see people waving back, so it's a good sign that you guys can see me. Can you hear me too? Yeah, all right, good. Hey, while I'm guessing they're doing some technical stuff, let's get a selfie, huh? A virtual selfie from Tokyo to Hong Kong. This is like the most meta, crazy thing I've done. But let's do it. And I'll have to share it later, and you'll see that I've got like a pillow cushion set up behind my computer because I'm in an Airbnb that's very nice, but a little bit echoey. So we're gonna make it work, and it's gonna be good. And I'm gonna try to make sure you all get your money's worth out of the meeting. But you already are gonna have Lester Thompson there, and he is an absolute pro, amazing speaker. And I'm really sad to not be there to hang out with him and hear his talks in person. But I've spoken with him before at a meeting. It's been like 10 years now, I think, and he's awesome. But my sincere thanks for your understanding of my current situation. Thank you so much. I wish I could be there in person, but thank you very much for understanding and supporting me. Usually when I give lectures, I try to learn some of the local language each time. And I tried to learn a little Cantonese, and I am not good at it.
Okay.
I have a couple coworkers who speak Cantonese, and they would try to teach me a word, and I would repeat it, and they'd be like no, like this, and I'd say it again. Not happening. Sorry, I'm ready now.
Okay. So I think everyone is ready. I've seen around 100 audience on the floor. So I think we can start.
Do you want me to share my screen now?
Yes, please.
All right, how's that look?
Got it. We have got the screen.
Excellent. And just tell me whenever you're ready for me to start.
Okay. Everyone can see it clearly? Okay. Okay, I think we can start now.
Okay, so I can start. I'm good.
Yep. Like everything is good.
Okay, great.
To go.
Thank you very much for the kind invitation to speak to you in Hong Kong. And thank you also for your flexibility in allowing me to do this virtually from Japan. So I think I've given a lot of lectures over the years. I think I keep track of it somewhere. I think it's about 330 invited lectures that I've given and about 80 or so international. But this is the first time that I can recall giving an international lecture virtually from another international country outside the United States. So this is a first for me. I've done a fair bit of things virtually and otherwise, but this is a new one for me. So thank you for joining me on this adventure. And I'm sorry, did someone say something? So thank you for joining me though virtually on this adventure, and and new territory. And I think that that's kind of what this talk is all about, actually, about social media and all the different facets of it, and how it's really not just changed my career, but really has truly changed my life. And I mean that sincerely and not facetiously. I do speak very quickly, and I recognize that even for an American, other Americans have always told me since I was a child, slow down, stop talking so fast. But I'm 43 years old now, and I recognize that some things about myself are probably not going to change, and this is probably one of them. But I will do my best to try to speak more slowly when I speak to an audience that is mostly non-native English speakers. I recognize now that I'm learning other languages how very difficult it is to hear and understand native speakers who speak quickly. So if I get going too fast, you can signal my handler, Dr. Ronald Chan, who has been awesome in getting me set up with everything, along with Vivian and of course Garrett Say. They all taking good care of me. But you can tell Ronald, hey, slow that guy down, and I've got his WhatsApp pulled up here, and he can message me and tell me to slow down. So if I'm getting a little too excited, let me know. So anyway, back to the talk. We're going to talk about like all of the ways I've used social media to do a variety of different things throughout my career. And like I said, it's definitely benefited my career. I mean, that's the reason I'm speaking to you in Hong Kong. None of you would know who I am if I didn't have a YouTube channel. Let's face it. I've written some papers, I've done some decent things, but I think that the reason that people have become aware of what I'm doing and the kind of teaching that I do is because of my social media presence. Not because I'm the most amazing teacher in the world. I think I'm good at teaching, but there are lots and lots of people who are excellent teachers. I've met them, I've heard them speak. Some of them are not as well known, merely because they don't have that kind of channel, the kind of online presence to allow themselves to be known and recognized. And so the other thing is that all these technologies, as we've seen through the pandemic and other times, they don't replace real life, do they? I mean, in the pandemic, it was great to be able to interact with other people when we couldn't do it personally, but we all know that it is not as much fun as in real life. Just like right now, while it's great I can speak to you remotely, it's not as much fun as me being there in person in Hong Kong and going out for dinner afterwards, right? So I think we all understand that social media is not here to replace real life, but it definitely can augment and increase our ability to do the things that we're trying to do. So that's what this is going to be all about. So here, these are in the United States, we have some rules about what to disclose. I like to give over disclosure. I do make a little bit of money. I own a small portion of the website Kiko, where I post a lot of my content. And I helped kind of build that site up and own like about 1.5% of it. So if one day a billionaire comes and buys it, I might get rich, but otherwise, probably not. I also own some stock in Google and Apple, and those tangentially are related to what I talk about. I also own a small fraction of Path Presenter, which I'll probably mention and use. I use also in a lot of my online posts. So just so you know, those you can see all of my conflict of interest details at that link anytime you want. And then down here's my contact information. I've got a social media 101 guide right here. There's a link. You can feel free to snap pictures or take screenshots, whatever you like. And then I've got some of my social media channels down here. And I still use the Twitter bird because, well, even before all the current political craziness, by the way, I'm so sorry on behalf of everything. I'm just sorry. That's all I'm going to say. It's a little harder sometimes to be an American and travel and do international things in recent times. So, in any case, but I still call it Twitter because I've been calling it Twitter for years. It's hard to change. This is all of my content online. I keep organized indices of them, of all my videos. It's the same videos I have on YouTube. I also post them on Kiko, along with a lot of other stuff that I post there. So you can go check those out anytime. And I try to keep that updated every couple of months. So with basically, it helps me keep track of all the content that I post because I have a lot of it now and it's hard to remember what I've done and what I haven't done. So social media, I started out this whole thing trying to use social media for teaching and it's been very successful, I think, in allowing me to teach. a broader audience of people around the world for free, which is really to me like the most wonderful thing. I really, that was what I started doing this for. But I've also found that I learn a lot from social media. By being online, I find papers there before I see them anywhere else. I hear about new topics as they're being discussed by my colleagues in Facebook groups or on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I also started it to network and get to know other people. But I found that in addition to that, I've made some actual real world friends who are very close to me now, who I would never have met if it weren't for social media. I've used social media for doing patient advocacy, for working with rare cancer patient groups. I'll talk a little more about that later. I've used it to do research. I've done research both about the use of social media, and I've also used social media to recruit subjects for traditional medical research. And I use it as a communications hub because, people may send me emails, and if I don't respond, then they'll send me a message on Facebook or Twitter and say, "Hey, check your email, please reply." And that's pretty true because I'm really bad about not keeping up with all of my emails. All right. So let's talk about Facebook first. Facebook is, I think has, last time I checked, 2 billion active monthly users. I mean, it's like a fourth of the world's population. It's crazy. It's too big to fail almost, right? So one problem that I see with people in medicine or other professional careers in their feelings about Facebook are, Facebook is for friends and family, right? It feels too personal to use it to connect to other people, other physicians or other people professionally. But I think this is the way to get around that. And this is called a Facebook page. Okay. So everyone, when you sign up for Facebook, you have a regular personal account. All right. You have to have that to have a page or anything else. But you can also open up Facebook and go down to pages, and you can create a page for yourself under your physician name as a professional figure or public figure, which, public figure, that sounds, you might say, I'm not famous, I'm not a public figure. But if you're a doctor, at least in the United States, you have like a public record, you have a national provider identification number. I imagine there's something similar in Hong Kong and in most countries in the world, right? Physicians are licensed. They are people that the public generally trust, although again, recent years have caused things to be a little more shaky about that. But I think there's still a lot of trust of doctors, especially doctors that show themselves to be trustworthy and truthful online. And I think in this postmodern, post-information age, we have so much information now, and then AI is only making that more complicated. What people really want now is a source of something that's real, that's true, that's honest, right? Something that they can trust when there's so much information out there and they don't know how to process it. I think that's a really important place for us, not just as pathologists, but as physicians in general, to be a source of honesty and fact and truth in this crazy modern time that we live in. So the other cool thing about Facebook pages is when you make a page, you do run the page from your regular Facebook account, but the rest of the world, anyone on Facebook can see the page, but they can't see your personal account behind there. So, the pictures of what I ate for dinner or my wife and kids and I going to, the beach or something, that's just for my friends and family, unless I post it on one of my public accounts. The other thing is that, some of my friends and family, as much as they love seeing photos of my beautiful kids and my wife and where I travel, they don't really want to see pictures of all this pathology stuff and big cut up tumors and eyeball worms and stuff like that, right? Some of them do though. Look, this Debbie's my stepmom. My Aunt Cindy is on there, and sometimes they're like in my top 100 followers. They're not doctors. They just want to support what I'm doing and say, "Whoa, that's crazy. That's cool." So the nice thing too is that when you use a Facebook page to share things, it allows people beyond just your trusted friends and family circle to see the content. And that's important. If you're posting stuff to teach, to educate, you want it to get as wide of a reach as possible, right? So here's a beautiful example of scurvy. And I used to say, "Oh, this is the only case I've ever seen. I'll never see another case." But actually, since this time, this is definitely the best case of scurvy I've ever seen. But I've seen like 3 or 4 more cases of scurvy. Amazingly, it's out there. It's really sneaky sometimes. And so this is an example of that, though. And the nice thing, too, is you can see, look, 9,000 people were reached. It got a pretty broad reach. The other great thing about Facebook pages is it gives you kind of granular analytic data. It lets you see not just how many people liked or loved your post, but it lets you see how many shared it, how many of them said wow or thought it was funny, how many of them reported you as spam or unfollowed you. And why that's important is that if I'm using this page to educate, the online people who look at my posts are my online students, right? My online learners. And just like in real life, when we teach in a medical school classroom, we survey the students to ask them how they would rate us and what they would suggest we change. This is the same kind of thing without having to ask people to rate me. Facebook is tracking that for their own reasons and profitable reasons, but it benefits me because they allow me to see that data to see what kind of content resonates with my online learners. Sometimes I'll post a case that I think is a really amazing, awesome thing, and nobody looks at it, nobody likes it. Other times I post something pretty like boring to me, like a seborrheic keratosis, and it gets like tens of thousands of views. I can't really figure out the algorithm after all these years. It's mysterious. I don't know if even the social media companies fully understand the algorithm, maybe. But look, this is Giardia, and you can take, if you have a Giardia biopsy sometime, take from the GI tract, take the formalin from that little bottle and put it in and make a cytospin prep, and you'll get this beautiful, amazing view of Giardia just like that. It's super cool and fun. And it will impress all of your friends, especially like at your next cocktail party. Like, show that picture to your friends. If they don't like that, then you've got the wrong kind of friends, okay? I'm hoping I'm getting some laughs in the audience, even if it's just a pity laugh because my bad jokes. It's okay because I've got three daughters, and they're always telling me how terrible my dad jokes are. So I'm at that phase of life where I've just accepted that's normal. All right. So anyway, Giardia, Cytospin, pretty amazing. My mentor, Dr. Ashok Balsavar, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago after a very long and happy life and career. He was just a wonderful teacher and mentor, and he had this slide and let me borrow it to take pictures way back when I was a resident. So I always think fondly of him and his memory whenever I see this cute little Giardia. I also use Twitter or X to share the same content that I share on Facebook. And the reason is some people use Twitter or X, but don't use Facebook. Some people use a variety of other platforms now because of all of the kind of turmoil that's happened in the geopolitical landscape, which has definitely impacted the social media landscape. So I still haven't really, I've created accounts at Blue Sky and some of those other places, but I've not really used them yet. I only have so much time. And each new platform that I work with requires some input and time to get it set up and running, you know. You may have known, I don't really have a slide in this talk about it, but you may have wondered, how does Jared Gardner post 12 times a day? I don't know for sure, but there's a good chance during this lecture or one of my other lectures today and tomorrow, I'll be posting something on Twitter. And I don't even know what that thing is because I have like hundreds and hundreds of tweets and posts that are set up in an app called Buffer, Buffer, bufferapp.com. And I have like a paid business version. It's not very expensive. And it allows me to load up a bunch of posts and share them to multiple platforms at once. And then I can go in and reload them and reuse them. Because if a post is good today, it's going to still be good next month or next year, most likely. So it allows me to do the work once of building a post and selecting the pictures and then reuse that same content to teach again and again. So if you ever see me post protothecosis like 20 times a year, that's why. I've only seen protothecosis one time in my life. But I'm going to post the heck out of that thing because it was an amazing case and the best example ever. So again, I post on multiple platforms because different people use different platforms. And my goal, again, is not just to get the most likes and the most followers. That stuff's all great. But it's to make sure that the teaching content reaches the widest number of people possible in the hopes that it will get a patient somewhere out there around the world the right diagnosis one day. If that happens, then that means I'm doing my job the right way. That's the reason I signed up to be a doctor and to be a teacher in the first place, right? To help sick people. And this just lets me do that bigger and better than I could do otherwise. All right. Twitter or X does allow you to have analytic data. Since transitioning ownership and becoming X instead of Twitter, unfortunately, I feel like the analytic data quality has gone down and it's more clunky and difficult to use, but you can still see how many tweet views or impressions you get in a given period of time. So here was this is data from, I don't know, a few months ago, last fall maybe. I didn't update it. So in a 4 week period, my tweets or posts had about 400,000 views. I've had times where they've gone over 1 million in a month. Other times they've gone less. It kind of varies, and I don't always know why. So in any case, it's kind of cool because you can get an idea of the kind of reach. That doesn't mean that 400,000 individual discrete users saw my posts. It doesn't mean that people that saw my post cared about it or read it or paid attention. It just meant that many times a tweet scrolled past someone's eyeballs, right? It might have been my aunt like scrolling past it 20 times just to give me higher numbers. I don't know. I'm just joking. I don't think she actually uses X, but in any case, I think that it's kind of nice because it shows you the really incredible amount of reach you have. Now, when you first start, you won't have numbers like this because it takes time to build up a following, and the bigger your following is, the more reach you tend to get, the more impressions you get. But it doesn't matter. The size is not the important thing. The number of people is not the important thing. It matters that you're having actual impact and helping other people, and that you're achieving the goals that you set out for yourself. I use Instagram also. I don't use it as much as the others because it's a little harder to automate, just to be quite frank. It takes a little more effort. And I have a lot more followers on Instagram that are non-physicians, members of the general public that are just interested in medicine, some college age and even high school age kids that are just kind of curious and maybe curious about a career in medicine or a career in STEM, it's science and technology fields. So I try to post things that are, kind of pretty and interesting and more fun when I post on Instagram, stuff that might be more to the general public interest. Sometimes I post travel related content also, just because I think it's people generally find that exciting and interesting, and I enjoy traveling and I enjoy sharing information about when I travel. So this is me with Phil LeBois, and he's looking at a copy of my survival guide textbook and smiling. So I was like shameless advertisement, shameless self promotion there. And this was me with absolute legend, Dr. Richard Scolyer. I interviewed him for the YouTube channel for the American Society of Dermath a few years ago. And as some of you may know, he's currently battling glioblastoma, and just the most amazing, nice, down-to-earth guy you could ever meet, who's I think the most published melanoma researcher in any field in history, to my understanding. I think he has over 500 publications about melanoma. He is an absolute legend and the nicest guy, and he's amazingly taking his diagnosis in stride in a way that I can't even fathom, and trying to use it to build more research about this disease. So he's just such an inspirational example. If you don't know about him, go check him out. If you're on Twitter or X, go follow him. It's just very moving, and I feel so honored to have gotten the chance to know him in real life, and to become friends with him. So
Well, I'm so sorry. Just now we have like a very short interruptions to with our connections. So any
problem.
after hi.
Hi, no problem. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. It's working now.
Okay.
So
Is it a
so
problem on my end?
it's I think it's on our end.
Oh,
I'm not
okay,
sure
cool.
why, but
Where
something
should I start from?
the shameless part.
Shameless self-promotion. Okay, great.
The shameless advertisement of your book part.
I love it. Thank you. The
I get
shame.
laughter everywhere.
That's good. And thank you for the laughs. I appreciate I can feel it, virtually in spirit. So thank you so much. The laughs keep me going. It was a little hard when I transitioned to doing online teaching because I couldn't always hear if the audience was giving me the laughs at the jokes. But I've done enough lectures now that I know like which jokes like land pretty well and which ones land kind of poorly, but people laugh anyway out of pity. And then usually I make some joke about how my wife's a psychiatrist and she says, that I'm not totally crazy. And then people laugh at that. So, it works. It keeps the audience awake. All right. So, yeah, Phil LeBois, amazing derm path at University of California, San Francisco, and shameless self promotion. Yes. And then over here, this is Richard Scolyer, who is a dermatopathologist in Australia at the Melanoma Institute of Australia. And I got to interview him on video for the American Society of Dermatopathology. It's on the American Society of Dermpath YouTube channel. That's from, I think, 2019. So I got to know Richard online through social media, through Twitter, actually. And even though he's like I think the most highly published melanoma researcher in any field, he just joined Twitter, and I got to meet him, and he's friends with all sorts of people, even trainees. That's the cool thing about all of these online platforms is many of them, they really kind of break down the hierarchy of medicine. And you get a chance to meet ultra famous, ultra important people who it turns out are just mostly normal, regular folks that just happen to have been doing, a career for a long time and they're really good at it. And as Richard once, he's from Australia, and as he once said about himself, I think during that 2019 ASDP meeting, he said, "Look, I'm just a regular bloke." And I love that because after meeting him, he's just a regular bloke who has accomplished absolutely phenomenal, incredible things in his career. And now, unfortunately, he is struggling with glioblastoma, and as is almost 2 years out from his diagnosis, but just recently, really tragically experienced a recurrence. And his like he said, my prognosis is not great, but he's really used his his whole journey with this horrible cancer. He's tweeted about it and posted about it along the way. He's had surgery so they could take extra tissue to study the novel, innovative research techniques that they've been using for melanoma. They've applied some of those things that he helped design for melanoma therapy to treating his glioblastoma and trying to get data from that to use for future patients. And man, if that doesn't just give you goosebumps and chills and inspire you, like I don't know what will. He's the most incredible guy, like just really, truly, truly amazing person and a truly amazing physician who's done so much for so many patients. And it's horrible to see him suffer and go through this, but it's also so inspiring to see that even in the midst of that, he's using it to make good wherever he can. And I think that in a way, that's kind of the lesson I think about social media in general. Social media has a lot of bad problems, right? I don't have to tell you that. Just look around. The world is on fire, basically, in so many ways, and social media has contributed to a lot of that. And this is something I've seen evolve over the past 10 to 12 years that I've been teaching and lecturing about social media. It's gone from being a thing that people kind of laughed at to being a thing that is very serious and sometimes in a very bad way. We cannot change that. We can't take away social media. It's not going to disappear. We're not going to somehow regulate it and make it so that it's totally perfect. We're not going to stop people from being bad and awful because they've always been bad and awful people throughout all of history. But what we can do is take these tools and use it to make something good, right? We can't fix all the bad stuff, but we can make something good from it and we can use it to be positive and do good. And so that's what I feel like I'm trying to do with social media. And I encourage you also, we could pretend it doesn't exist and put our heads in the sand, or we can say this is a problematic tool, just like any new technology, right? The printing press, the internet in general, all of these things have done incredible positive things for humanity and have also been used for incredibly awful, evil purposes too, right? Media of any sort is a tool that can be used for good or evil. So let's use it for good. Let's use it to help sick people. Let's use it to inspire and educate, right? We can do that. So I know that I can't fix all the bad problems in the world. And that's what I tell my students and residents. And that's what I tell my kids. I was like, we can only worry so much and we can't fix a lot of problems, but there are good things we can do each day. And me teaching people about how to diagnose cancer and other things, that's a good thing I can work on each day to make the world a little bit better. It won't fix everything, but it does a little part, right? And if we all do a little bit, I think it adds up. I don't know. That's my thought. Maybe that's just what I tell myself to get through the day, but that's okay. That's all right. That's self-care, right? That's wellness. All right. So look, the other thing is, even though I'm supposed to be an expert in my field and I've seen a lot of really crazy, amazing cases, I still encounter cool stuff online that I've never seen or that's better than I've ever seen. This is a nerve sheath myxoma. I've diagnosed these, not that many. They're relatively uncommon, honestly. But have you ever seen one that incredible? And also, I mean, incredible props to the histotech for embedding and cutting that thing. Like that is absolute chef's kiss perfection. And if you don't like that, like I can never make you happy. So this picture is from a colleague from Spain, Angel Santos Bristeron, and he has this incredible gross and micro, and like that's the best nerve sheath myxoma I've ever seen, right? Even though I'm a soft tissue pathologist. So it's cool because by using social media, you'll also encounter other stuff that you would not see in your own practice. So not only does it allow you to meet other people and build your skills, it allows you to encounter other more crazy examples of cases, and that builds your visual mileage or your visual kilometers. I don't know how you say it in other non-USA countries, but the more slides you see, the better you get in pathology, right? That's how you get better is by you looking at more and more and more stuff. And I think that by being online, it allows us to do that a lot faster. So I've always said if people have not tried Twitter or X, give it a go. Just try it for a month. Even with all the chaos of the modern times, I think there's still a lot of great stuff on that platform. I personally don't get too worked up or worried about who owns a platform. All sorts of companies have bad people who run them or own them. And so my personal view is I just have not gotten too involved in boycotting things because of who owns it. Like I said earlier, I'm going to use it if a tool works and I can do good with it, I'm going to use it. That's my philosophy, at least. I don't know if it's right, but that's the way I've kind of approached this over time. So just so you know, I'm not saying that I support any particular person because I don't, okay? Just so you know. But I'm just saying that I think that this platform still has positive value to add, and so I still use it. So if you want to try it out, if you haven't used it, sign up for it, check it every day for a month. Try to find 3 things to share or retweet. That's pretty easy to do. Just click the button and say, okay, share to my followers. And then, maybe follow a few new people per day and once per week, tweet something or post something of your own. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be a picture of a seborrheic keratosis or molluscum or, like sometimes the simplest thing, like a beautiful actinic keratosis or a nevus, whatever. People like simple and beautiful is something that resonates with people. I'm really seeing that in Japan. I think there's a lot of beauty and simplicity together, and I feel like it's something that sometimes in American culture we don't quite grasp as well as some Asian cultures do. And it's a wonderful thing that I really admire about many different Asian cultures. And I think it's something that can apply to the way we teach. Like you can teach with simple and you can teach with things that are beautiful examples of something common and simple. Because most general pathologists don't need to know about the super esoteric new soft tissue tumor that has been described like 4 times in the world, right? What you do need to know is how do I sort out nevus from melanoma? How do I make sure this is just an inflamed seborrheic keratosis and not a squamous cell carcinoma? Hey, just so you know, I still struggle with that exact question almost every day. And I've been in practice for coming up on 13 years. So sometimes that's also helpful, letting people know that no matter how good you are, you still struggle. I think normalizing the fact that pathology is a hard job is really important, especially for our trainees. And I think that that's a culture shift that I've seen happen in medicine, and I think it's a good thing to help our trainees know that it doesn't matter how good we are and how experienced we still have a hard job and we still make mistakes. And I think helping trainees to understand that is really valuable, and it helps against them burning out, which is a phenomenon, at least in the United States, that's really increasing and becoming a real problem. And I don't know all the solutions, but I think one way is to support our trainees by letting them know that we still have difficulties and challenges, even as experts in our fields. Okay, so the other thing is you may say all this, touchy-feely stuff and getting to know people, that's great, but what about getting published? What about getting promoted? Well, if you spent the time to write a paper, why not share that paper on social media and get more views? You've already put in hundreds of hours writing the paper. Take 5 minutes and share that to your followers online. Here's a paper I wrote with one of my greatest mentors, Jay Rowe, who is more than anybody the reason I became a teacher, because he was an amazing teacher. He sadly passed away about a year and a half ago, and after a really amazing career in pathology. And he inspired me in so many ways, but really inspired me to teach, to educate, because he educated so much. And he also had this amazing algorithmic approach. So I encourage you, go and check out this paper. It's an amazing paper, not because I'm a co-author on it, but because this is Dr. Rowe's method, his system. And it's really great for trainees of showing how to look at a slide and figure out if it's abnormal, if it's a tumor or not, if it's epithelial or mesenchymal, if it's benign or malignant. He has this very simple algorithm. So I was going to give a lecture in Dr. Rowe's honor. He had won a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Korean Pathology Association of North America. This was back in 2019. And so we had published this paper together. And I thought, to show the power of social media for sharing our publications, let me take this paper and I'm going to tweet it a little blurb about what the paper, a summary of the paper, a link to the paper on PubMed, and a couple of screenshots from the article. So I'm not sharing the whole article for free, although the publisher very kindly agreed to make the whole article free to download now. So you can go and check it out and download it. And so many thanks to Dr. Mahul Amin and Advances in Anatomic Pathology for supporting that. So I did this, I posted this while I was walking down the jet bridge to get on my plane to fly to the USCAP 2019 meeting where Dr. Rowe was receiving this award. And then the next morning, 24 hours later, when I woke up to get a shower and get ready to go give my lecture with Dr. Rowe there in the audience, I checked how many times had this tweet been looked at. And look, in 24 hours, 6,000 times this tweet was viewed. And 225 times people actually clicked the link to PubMed. Now, that doesn't mean that all the people downloaded the paper or read it, But the point is that the people saw the paper, they know that it's there, they know they can bookmark it and save it and come back later to read it if they want. And that's in 24 hours. Again, I had quite a few followers even back in 2019. So you don't always get this kind of numbers when you first start out, but this is the extra impact. So, people traditionally have focused on journal impact factors. I don't care about journal impact factors. I have my own impact factor. And I mean that slightly combatively, but also in true sincerity. I would rather publish in a lower impact journal that had free online access as long as it was not a predatory journal, of course, because I don't need the journal's fame to get my paper out there. I can get my paper out there to the audience on my own by sharing it on my social media accounts. So to me, this is a really important change that's happening over time, is that we now have the ability to kind of control our own ability to publicize and advertise our research, right, and our publications. And not just your research, but anything you're trying to get out there, any messaging you're trying to do to the public, to other pathologists, for your society, your organization, you can use your own social media channels basically to control the way that content gets shared and to advertise. So whatever the kind of things you're trying to do, you can do it more by using social media to help you. All right. So 6,000 views in 24 hours. So, some people say, well, I already use Facebook. Why should I try Twitter or X? And I do think that Facebook still, even with Facebook pages, it still is kind of uncomfortable for people to just randomly friend people they don't know. But on Twitter or X, people generally, everyone follows everyone. You shouldn't have a private account. Most accounts are public there. The private account to me kind of defeats the purpose of using Twitter. There are some exceptions, people with, stalkers or something like that. There are some people that honestly have had real trouble with other people, and I totally understand their need for privacy. That's a different situation than most of us deal with, thankfully. But in any case, it's really amazing because you can instantly connect to all these famous people, regardless of where you live in the world, regardless of what country you're from, regardless of your rank or how famous you are. I see, like I said, junior trainees interacting with Philip McKee or Richard Scolyer, all these world famous legends of pathology, and they'll just answer like normal people because they are normal people. So it's really cool. And you can also meet awesome people you would have never met in real life. A great example is my good friend Sanjay Mukhopadhyay, who's a lung pathologist at Cleveland Clinic. And he and I both go to the US CAP meeting every year, but that's a huge meeting with thousands of people. And we might have never met each other at that meeting just because he's a lung pathologist. He goes to the lung sessions. When I go to the soft tissue and skin sessions. And yet we met on Twitter. And then this was our first time meeting in real life back in 2017. And it was like we had known each other for years. So we met on Twitter and then in real life, which is the hashtag that Sanjay came up with, of this amazing feeling of what it's like when you meet somebody online and then you finally get to meet them face to face. And I think now after the pandemic, everyone kind of understands this a little better. A long time ago, before the pandemic, people didn't really get this. They were like, what's the big deal? But once you get to know somebody in the virtual space and then get to meet them face to face, you get to see how real relationships online are. Because we went out after this and had dinner, and it was like we were long lost brothers, even though we had never met face to face. Because even though we're using a virtual medium to communicate, we're still two human beings on both ends of the conversation, right? It doesn't matter that the medium we're using is virtual or digital rather than air when we talk face to face, right? We're still having a real conversation. Again, this doesn't replace real life, but it definitely is a powerful thing that allows you to meet people you wouldn't have met otherwise. This is my friend, my Turkish sister, Pembe Oltulu. I've met Pembe in Turkey twice now. She's never been to the United States. I met her totally through social media. She's one of the top most involved people on Twitter during United States and even European medical meetings. She will like wake up in the middle of the night so that she can tweet during the meeting. I mean, totally inspirational. My wife and I were on a layover in Istanbul back in 2016, and Pembe flew from her home city, Konya, to Istanbul just to meet me and Jenny, my wife. And she hired a tour guide, took us around Istanbul for a few hours, gave us more gifts than we could get back on the plane, practically, and showed us like real Turkish hospitality. You think I won't drop anything to help Pembe out if she needs it? I mean, that's incredible because that is a connection that totally would never have happened without social media. I would never have heard of Pembe. I would never have met her because she's never even been to the United States. And now, like, she's someone that I consider like a dear member of my family. And to be honest, I'm talking about all sorts of really cool things I think that social media has enabled to happen in my career, in my life. But the best part to me of all of it is the meeting all of these amazing people who I would not have known otherwise if it weren't for Twitter and Facebook. So for all the bad and evil stuff out there, I've met incredible people who have really changed my life in a very personal and meaningful way because of social media. And for that, I'm very thankful. This is my buddy Geronimo Jr. Lepac from Brazil, and my friend Raul Gonzalez, who I did know in real life first. He was a resident at Emory when I was a fellow there with Dr. Weiss during my soft tissue fellowship, and then my derm path fellowship. And Raul now has gone on to work at Harvard, and now he's back as a full professor at Emory. So he's a really amazing guy. And he also I invited him to give virtual grand rounds at my institution just last week. So it's fun how things have gone full circle. But Geronimo, both Raul and I met Geronimo through social media, and now Geronimo's had us down to Brazil. This was last year at a meeting there at a churrascaria, a Brazilian-style steakhouse, which is fantastic. And I love that the guys in the back posed for us for our selfie, which was really cool. And so in any case, this is the cool thing. After the meeting, Geronimo and his family invited me to come with him to the Amazon, and we went and had like a couple days Amazon rainforest adventure. That wouldn't have happened without social media. And the other cool thing is when you go to these big pathology meetings, in the past, it took years to kind of build up a network of people that you knew. But now when people go, all of the people, even first-year trainees, they know many other people because they follow them on social media. And so this whole crowd right here, we will get together and have like a tweet up where we take a big group selfie of all the people. Many of the people in that crowd had never met each other before face to face, but they all knew each other because they followed each other online, which I think is pretty cool. You can actually do real research from social media. This is a bit of cartilage in a mediastinal lymph node. A lot of P1 from Spain posted a picture like this and said, hey, has anyone seen this before? And it turns out what happened is that when you do an EUS FNA endoscopically, when you do the biopsy, sometimes it punches a bit of that bronchial cartilage into the lymph node and it stays there. And then if it's lung cancer and they resect the lung and the nodes, the cartilage is still there. But they were scratching, heads thinking, what is causing the cartilage to be in a lymph node? And then they figured out that's what it was. And so this conversation totally happened because of a tweet. And everybody got together on Twitter in a private discussion group and discussed, hey, we should do a real study of this. Then they went and got formal ethics board IRB approval at their own institutions and collaborated cases. And about 12 to 14 months after that initial tweet, this paper was published in the American Journal of Surgical Pathology. 24 pathologists from 5 countries in one of the most prestigious pathology journals in the world. And this happened 100% because of a tweet. And this is just one example. So, when you go to meetings and you see a cool case that someone shares and you're like, oh, I've seen something like that. Maybe we can collaborate and do a study. That kind of interaction that happens naturally at meetings can happen every day in Facebook and in Twitter and in all of these social media platforms because people are always sharing cool things. I've had cases where I was getting ready to publish a case series and then someone tweeted an example of something and I was like, whoa, we're about to publish a series. Do you want to include your case? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then we added their case to our series and we had an extra case in it. So it's really cool the way that this works. And it definitely can help you achieve like the traditional publication style academic goals. So it's not just for like meeting cool people and teaching, although I think those things are really powerful. You can actually do more powerful, more amazing research than you could do in the old days before this. In the old days, to get a paper with 24 pathologists from 5 countries, you had to be a big name, famous researcher pathologist who knew everybody, right? Because you had gone to so many meetings. Nowadays, people can do this in their residency or a couple years into their career. I published my first international paper with multiple authors, I think in 2016. I have been in practice 4 years, and I had pathologists from 5 or 6 different countries, and it was all about using Facebook for education. So it's hard for people to compete with that in a traditional academic environment where you're trying to show that you're publishing stuff that's more meaningful and more weighty and more international than is expected for your level. It's hard to achieve that if you're not using social media, I think. And you can also do journal clubs. We've done journal clubs where we have a set article and a set date and time, and everyone downloads the article and reads it, and then we tweet back and forth about it. We've done it for dermpath and general pathology and a variety of other ones. I haven't participated in one for a little while because I've been pretty busy, but it's a really cool way to do something that we normally would think of doing during the day, but you can actually do it at night, at home with a glass of wine after you put your kids to bed or something. So it's pretty nice. The other cool thing that I found is that while pathologists are active on social media, other people, the general public, and also other physicians outside of pathology are watching and seeing what we're doing, what we're tweeting, what we're talking about. And that's not the main point of doing it, but it's kind of a beneficial side effect because I don't know if it's true in Hong Kong, but in the United States at least, I think that there are a lot of misperceptions about pathology, and many people in the public and many people in medicine in other specialties don't really understand what we do, right? They're like, just send it to the lab, put that tissue in that machine that'll give you the answer, right? Or they think that the slides come pre-dotted with all the cancer marked on it. Oh, if only, right? If only we could have it like that. Although I guess we wouldn't have a job then, would we? So we'll see. AI may do it, but I think it's a little ways off, guys. In any case, Kate Miller is a family medicine physician, a general practicing family medicine physician in Canada. And I was actually on my way to give a lecture about social media in Puerto Rico, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. And I saw this tweet while I was sitting in the airport and I was like, this is amazing. So I screenshotted it and put it in this lecture. And I told her, I said, Kate, I'm going to put this in every social media lecture from now on because I love what she said. To be honest, before Twitter, I rarely even thought about pathologists. Major oversight on my part. And I think that that's really cool that people can see how we do things, what we do, and the fact that we know a lot and we are using all of that knowledge to get the right diagnosis for our patients so that all of the right treatment can happen. And allowing our colleagues to see that, I think, is really beneficial over time. And here's some other examples. Aaron Goodman, he's an oncologist. So, of course, oncologists, I think, have a deep understanding of how pathology does things. But he said, there's never any controversy. We always have a good sense of humor. And then Dr. Glaucom Flecken, I don't know if you know him, but he is an ophthalmologist and also an amazing comedian. And he likes to make these funny skits on TikTok. But way before TikTok, he was on Twitter. I knew him before he was that famous. Okay, I don't know if he knows me, but I know him. And so he said that, whenever he gets really, when things get too difficult and heavy on other parts of Twitter, he goes over and looks at the pathology tweets because it's very soothing. And I love that. And he also has made some videos about pathologists. And if you haven't watched it, just go look up Glaucom Flecken pathologist. It's amazing because instead of him making, jokes about us like being introverted and, only hanging out in the morgue with dead bodies and doing autopsies, instead he has a video where he has like a microscope made out of toilet paper rolls and he has it nicknamed Tabitha. And the med student comes in and he's like, oh, hey, we got a med student. And he tells the secretary to bring down some hot cocoa and a blanket to cover the med student up because, it's cold in the basement where a lot of pathologists have to work. I'm lucky. I work on, like the third floor and have a nice window, a view of the garden, but a lot of pathologists don't get that. So it's so great though. He makes us out to look really smart and maybe slightly nerdy because let's face it, I'm totally a nerd, and I think probably a lot of pathologists are. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nerd is the new cool. All right. So anyway, the point is that it's giving our field a good name on social media. Kiko is a newer platform that is basically the idea of this is to be a social media platform for all physicians that's not controlled by one of the big mega tech corporations because as we saw, when Twitter was bought out privately, there were some concerns that maybe Twitter would completely shut down. And I've spent years and years putting content out there on Twitter, and it would have all just vanished if Twitter collapsed. So it did make some of us who use social media a lot think, maybe it would be good to have multiple different platforms that you use, and also maybe some platforms that are not in the hands of mega tech corporations. So in any case, this is now like my central hub where I post most of my content. And then from there, I cross post it on other platforms. We also have an app we're working on that you can go and download. The idea of this being that you can scan barcodes from each other to keep track of who you meet and where and when you met them. Because I go to a lot of meetings and meet a lot of people. And then later I might recognize someone, but I cannot remember what year, what meeting, what country did I meet them. And so this is one of the goals we're working on. It's still, a work in progress. But we have got a great development team working on stuff. And again, conflict of interest, I do own a small fraction of this company. So just so you know, if you don't like that, don't check it out, okay? YouTube is where I've really spent a lot of time in recent years. And I like it because I can make videos that are short or really long. I can make basic videos for beginners or really esoteric fellowship level videos and everything in between. And that way, when I'm having a busy day and I see a cool case and I just don't have time to explain it to the medical student with me, I'll say, hey, look on my YouTube or on my Kiko. I've got a video about this that explains everything in detail. They don't have to go look at it if they don't want to, but if they want more information, they can get it. And it's using a really good example that I handpicked and using my own words and my own voice to talk about it. So it allows me to do more with the limited amount of time that I have. So you can teach this really basic stuff like skin histology, because let's face it, my fellows who have already done a full residency in either pathology or dermatology and now are dermpath fellows, they don't need to hear every time a med student say, they don't need to hear this is the stratum corneum. This is the stratum granulosum. That's boring for them. But I also don't want to leave the med students out. So this allows the med students to watch this video before they start, and they can at least get a little bit of understanding of what we're looking at, right? Because dermpath's hard, but you can also have really rare things like protothecosis and really advanced things and everything in between. I've made a few videos about, medical work-life balance, medical inspiration, which I felt a little silly about, but people ask me questions about this a lot. And so I made some videos and people have told me they find that really helpful. I've had some invited guests, like my friend and former colleague, Jeanette Ramos, who's a really wonderful educator and a hematopathologist. So in that video, she's the teacher and I'm the student. And if you ever want to see Jared Gardner look stupid, go watch that video, because there's plenty of times where I guess at the answer and I'm spectacularly wrong. And people have even said in the comments, wow, it's great to see someone like Jared Gardner who doesn't even know how to recognize babesiosis, or I can't remember what parasite it was. It's very humbling, but it's good to stay humble. And pathology is a humbling job, man. It is very humbling every day. I keep thinking it's going to get easy one day, and that day has not arrived yet, because the hard stuff keeps coming, and that's okay. That's what keeps it fun and interesting. But some days it's a little tough. I've had the chance to interview some amazing people, like my friend Philip McKee, who I had met on social media, on Twitter and Facebook. He then went on to start a Facebook group to educate people. He had a meeting in Kiev, Ukraine, before the current chaos, and I had the great pleasure to get to visit Kiev and meet wonderful Ukrainian pathologists. And I interviewed him, and he is hilarious and a really great storyteller. And you can go watch that video on my channel. I highly recommend it. He has some great stories about racing Ferraris in the desert and all sorts of wild stuff. It's awesome. The other thing is that YouTube gives you analytic data, just like the Facebook page will. It'll show you how many views you get of different videos. It shows you how many people like the video. You can get comments and questions. Occasionally you'll get spam or haters and stuff like that. I just hide those people and block them and don't worry about it. But this might be the most meaningful slide in the lecture, as far as a purely like, this statistic means more than all the other ones, I think, because it shows how powerful the ability to educate through YouTube is. So, and my numbers are a little higher than this now, but when I took this screenshot, it was in the last 48 hours. So this graph here is the last 48 hours. This hour, an hour ago, all the way back 2 days. It showed that I had 11,000 views in the last 48 hours. So about 7 years ago, this graph used to have like some black spots in it, like some areas where there was an hour where no one watched one of my videos. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, I noticed that the bars were all blue, that every hour of every day, 24/7, 365, people were watching my YouTube videos. And now it's usually between 2 to 3 to 400 views every hour of every day, even on holidays, even in the middle of the night. While I'm giving you this lecture, people in sub-Saharan Africa or in Nepal or in the United States are learning about giant cell tumor of tendon sheath or basal cell carcinoma or microcystic adnexal carcinoma or whatever, because I make the video once and then YouTube continues to share it out to the world nonstop. So I have a lot of energy, but I cannot teach 24/7. I've got to have time with my family and time to take care of my own patients at work, right? But this allows me to do the work once. And then once I put it on YouTube, YouTube takes care of promoting it and advertising it to the world forever. Even if I died today, YouTube would still continue to use those videos to educate beyond my death, which is pretty cool. Maybe a little morbid, but still cool, right? I'm teaching when I'm sleeping. And I think that is something I could never, ever, ever have accomplished without social media, particularly YouTube. And, I looked, and this number is already out of date. I should have updated it. Over my 12 or 13 years that I've had my channel, and you can see really my channel really started picking up in 2016 when I made my skin histology video. But over that time, I've had about 7 million views. I actually looked just the other day, it's about 9 million views now. But in any case, let's say 7 million, which comes up to a watch time, a total number of hours of time that the videos have been watched is 611,000 hours. Well, that sounds like a lot, but how much is it really? It's 69 calendar years. So I'm 43 years old. Right around the time I was 42, I think I hit 42 years worth of view time. So now I'm at what, 69 years? Actually, I'm actually a good bit above that because of I just need to recalculate it. So I mean, in the next couple of years, I'll hit 100 years worth of time. So I've had more hours of teaching than hours that I've been alive on this earth because of YouTube. That is powerful, right? It's more than just about having good content or being a good teacher. It's that this platform is powerful and is free. And people have told me you should have a paywall, and I could do all that and probably make some more money. I make a little bit of money from YouTube from advertisement revenue. It's basically a little bit of money to go towards saving for my daughters to go to college. I'd like to buy a fancier car one day, but I still drive a Honda Civic and it's used, okay? And my wife drives a Honda Odyssey minivan. Nothing wrong with Hondas. It's lasted us for a long time, but I'm not going to quit my day job because of YouTube, all right? If I wanted to do that, I would make videos about other stuff, not esoteric skin pathology and soft tissue tumors. Okay? But this is powerful as an educator, I think, to be able to teach this level. And I taught Philip McKee how to make YouTube videos. He was winning a Lifetime Achievement Award at the American Society of Dermapath. And I said, Philip, why don't you make some videos? Because it would be so cool for people to be able to like see what's going through your head when you look at a slide. So he went back, he made a video, and then he went back to his retirement home in France at the time was where he was living. He lives in the UK now. Then he made a bunch of videos on YouTube and you can go watch them. It's incredible. This guy has given his whole career, like all of this time, decades of his life to a career. And then in his retirement, he continues to make content and teach. So inspirational. So the key is, and I know we're getting a little short on time here, but I'm finishing up in the next few minutes. The key is you may not be sure if you want to make videos. You may say, well, there's already videos out there. There can always be more videos. There can always be more videos, even about the same topic, because different people teach different ways and learners learn different ways. That is one thing I've discovered through teaching. I've taught med students as a course director. I've taught many residents, both pathology and dermatology and some others. I've taught fellows. I have taught audiences of general pathologists and dermatologists and other specialties. And one thing I can tell you is true is people learn in different ways. And as educators, we want to make as many different types of content in the hopes that it will help learners who learn with that type of content. Some of my viewers only watch my short 3 or 4 or 5 minute long videos. Other people amazingly will sit down and watch most of a 4 hour long mega board review. I wouldn't do that, but I mean, I encourage all of you, please do. Thank you for supporting the channel. But seriously, people need different things at different times and people learn different ways. So if you're not, and also my content is all in English and I cannot tell you how many times people want translated subtitles, which YouTube does, but it does not do it well. I'm hoping that with AI, they will actually get better at that, but they're still not very good at medical word translation of my videos. And so, the thing is what about people who need to learn and don't speak English well and speak Cantonese? Or maybe you speak Mandarin or some other language. Why not make videos like that? One of my residents, who's going to be my Dermpath fellow, Dr. Li Ping Li, he's from southern China. I can't remember the city, but his native language is Cantonese. So he started making videos on YouTube. I'm so proud of Li Ping for this. He's made like 100 videos. He is a machine. He's amazing, incredible diagnostic, skilled pathologist. As like a first year resident, he sat with me and I was like, have you done like a whole residency before? And he said, oh, no. He had been like a urologist in China and then came to the US. He is just like an absolutely skilled diagnostician and a really nice guy. So if you go to my YouTube channel, I actually have a playlist. If you look under playlists, you can see other pathology channels. So when I find other pathology channels, I try to add at least one video there so that other channels can get discovered by pathologists who watch my videos. Because people all the time tell me, please make videos about stuff other than skin and soft tissue. Sorry, I'm not going to make a video about medical liver because I just don't know that much about it, right? I did it in residency a little bit, and I cover frozen call for transplant sometimes, but that's it. I can't do advanced videos about medical liver or kidney pathology, but maybe you can. And there's a lot of areas that need to be taught. So the main point I'm trying to say is, go check out Li Ping's videos because he has some that he makes actually in Chinese. I can't remember if it's in Cantonese or in Mandarin, but in any case, if you're making a lecture and you're doing it virtually for your trainees, just screen record it. Just get a screen recording program. A lot of like Zoom and all of the apps that we use to do virtual lecturing, a lot of them already have built-in screen recording. I use something called Screen Buddy or Screencast-O-Matic. I think there's a newer tool I started using called Snagit. There are lots of them. Just get a screen recorder, record the whole thing. Don't worry if you make mistakes. You can always go back later and edit it, or pay one of your junior trainees to edit it, because you know the kids today are really good at editing videos. You can make the video and save it now and then decide later if you ever want to post it online. But now it's hard for me to give a lecture without recording it because I feel like it's a waste, because it goes to the audience right then, but then it disappears. And I'd rather capture it and then reuse it later so that while I'm sleeping, YouTube can teach again and again and again and again for years. And that to me is like maximizing my efficiency as an educator. So I just say, like, don't figure out anything. Just record the lectures that you give whenever you're able to and save them. And then later you can figure out if you want to start a YouTube channel or not. Or you can just use them for internal use for your own trainees. Okay. So here's an example. I gave a lecture in Paris, a 5-hour lecture. It was awesome. They invited me as the speaker, kind of like what you guys, it was the IAP France. And I went in person, and they took me out to all these great restaurants. And I'm weeping a little bit because I know that you guys had some great restaurants planned for me in Hong Kong. And I will cry tonight, but I'll eat some ramen or something to help ease the pain. At least I'm in Tokyo, so there will be good food to be had, but it's not Hong Kong food. So in any case, I gave a lecture for the whole day, and I recorded it. And then I took the big recording, which I posted, and then I cut it into little short clips about each entity. And what's cool about doing that is it lets you get more views, which is great if you're trying to, make a little money from ad revenue. But also it's great because some of these entities that I talked about are buried in the middle of a 5-hour lecture, and people would never have found them. They would have seen the video and said, that's 5 hours, I'm not watching that. And they would not have realized that the video about BAP1 inactivated melanocytoma that they wanted is right there in the middle at hour 2.5 or something, right? So by cutting up, which is pretty easy to do with, iMovie or other apps, to take a big video and splice it down into smaller segments. So then I repost those same exact content, but in a shorter form, because some people like the short form content format, right? And one of the great examples is from this whole lecture. I think this whole 5-hour lecture has been viewed like, I don't know, 5 or 10,000 times. But there's a little 2-minute clip in there where I kind of give a little, we call it in English a soapbox. Like I'm standing up and preaching and about something I'm really passionate about. And it's that everything is a cyst, right? I don't know if it happens in Hong Kong, but in America, I get all sorts of nodules, and the surgeon says, rule out cyst or rule out lipoma. And sure, a lot of times it is a cyst or a lipoma until it's not. And until it ends up being a sarcoma or an adnexal tumor. So I like to say everything's a cyst until it's not a cyst, right? So that little video has now been viewed like 100,000 times, more than all of the other content put together on the whole thing, which is kind of crazy, right? If I would not have cut that little clip out, it would have gotten overlooked. And so that's the example, is that I've had many cases like that where I took a small clip out of a bigger thing, and the small clip got way, way more views and activity than the whole full large video. So that's why the benefit of that. These are some examples, again, of ways that I've done screen recording. I said ScreenPal is my favorite, although I actually need to update this because just very recently I started using a new app because of a computer change that I had at my institution. And actually the newer app works even a little better. I think it's called Snagit. I'll have to update this and put that in there. But again, you can just look online, best screen recording tools, and find whatever works for you. This is a video about how I make pathology videos. It's on my YouTube and my Kiko. It's a little outdated because I've changed some things. This was made before the pandemic, but still the general principles apply. This is a video about kind of how the concept of how I make videos, splice them, how I share them and get people to click on them. You can go check that out if you want to do some, like if you want to make a lot of content. And so make videos about whatever you're passionate about, or wherever there's knowledge gaps that need filled, or anytime that I have something I have to explain again and again to my learners, I make a video about it. And then I say, here's the link, go watch the video. And then it saves me a lot of time, right? And also, I'm a perfectionist, and perfect is the enemy of good. I love that quote because I would have made videos a lot sooner, except when I first started, I tried to make them perfect without stumbling over my words, without saying, and you know what? Then I made a video where I didn't edit it. I just basically put it out there. It's the skin histology video. I didn't splice it or edit or do anything fancy, except I think I spliced the two halves together and posted it. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. And guess what? It's one of the most watched videos on my whole channel. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't let perfectionism get in the way of you doing something like this. If you have a dream about educating, do it. Go today. Make a channel, start recording stuff, and make it better as you go. Okay? That's my advice for you. You can go watch that video. I made that in Egypt because how cool, right? The pyramids are in the background. And oh, by the way, the reason I got invited to Egypt is because social media. So again, if I'm not convinced you, nobody can. So the final thing now, I know we're 10 minutes over, but we started a little late, right? When I'm not at a traditional university anymore. I'm now at kind of a hybrid large public hospital that is also has trainees, has residents, and is affiliated with the med school. But so my point is that I can get promoted, but it doesn't really matter anymore like it did at the traditional university where I used to work. But when I went up for promotion at 4 years into practice, which is pretty early, even in American standards, I don't know how it works in Asia, but when we apply for promotion in academics to go from assistant up to associate professor or associate to full professor, you have to make a packet to show all of your publications for research. You survey all of your students and trainees and have them rate you on how good you are as an educator. You show evidence that you've been working and volunteering in national and international organizations and that you're doing good patient care. So I thought, I do all this teaching online. Why not survey my online students and see how they would rate my teaching? And then I included that in the packet as kind of an appendix of additional information, right? Because I know like they were going to think I'm crazy because this is not, legitimate, or this is a different way of doing things than I think probably I'm the first person at that university ever to have submitted, stuff about Twitter and Facebook with my promotion and tenure application. So I thought either I'll get promoted or I'll get fired. We'll see what happens. I did get promoted, okay? But what I did is I surveyed people on SurveyMonkey and asked them to rate my teaching. And in 4.5 days, I got over 1,100 responses, which blew me away. And at that, from 85 different countries. And at that point, SurveyMonkey was going to start charging me more for every additional 100 responses. I'd have to pay them some money. So my wife loves to save money, and she's like, okay, just turn off the survey. I think you've proved your point, But I kind of wonder if I would have let it go for like 6 months, what would have happened. But in any case, so I was really kind of blown away that in 4.5 days, I got this many replies. And when I asked people to rate my teaching skills, 99% said I was excellent or good, which is pretty awesome, right? But the curse of the educator is, why did 3 people say very poor? Why did they hate me? What did I do wrong? Do you feel that sometimes, any of you who teach in the room? It's real, right? It's the educator's curse that you cannot please everybody, and you always wonder why that small subset of people don't like you. But you know what? Haters gonna hate. That's what we say in the United States, at least. And it's true, having a few haters kind of makes your data more legitimate, right? No matter how good you are, there's gonna always be someone who's like, well, I don't know why the video is that long, or I don't know why the video is that short, or why can't you do X, Y, or Z? What can you do, right? I just make the content and I hope that some people out there like it. And it turns out 99% of people seem to. And in the end, all the numbers I showed you are great, right? And I like to use those numbers for audiences to impress people and get them to see the power of social media. But in the end, real world impact is way more important than all the analytics and the metrics, okay? So when I asked the people in that survey, have my posts actually helped you to improve the way you practice medicine, to let you better care for real world patients or diagnose real world patients? Of the doctors who replied, 89% said, yeah, it has. So to me, how can I stop doing this when I know that it enables other physicians to better care for or better diagnose real world patients outside the sphere of my own real world practice, right? I'm able to make better diagnostic and treatment care for patients around the world, patients I would never meet, and doctors who I may never and probably will never meet face to face. I mean, that's the reason I signed up to do medicine, to do pathology, to be a teacher and an educator. And this lets me do it more than I could do it through the traditional means. So I think that's the real bottom line summary, is that whatever you're trying to accomplish in your career, whether it's research-based, education-based, anything, social media is not going to replace the traditional ways. But if you use it alongside the traditional things, it will let you do it bigger, better, faster than ever before. And if I cannot convince you of that, then nobody can. Thank you. Dojek. I see some clapping hands. in the small profile picture. So that's a good sign.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ghana, for the inspiring presentations on how Twitters, YouTubes, and all these social media impact the pathology educations. So before we move on to the second lectures and ending our YouTube stream, let's see if there is any burning questions from the floor. So I think we are still warming up. And so let's move on to the second lectures on the cutaneous and exotumors. Are you ready,
Okay.
Dr. Ghana?
I'm
Thank you.
ready. Yeah. Thank you. All right. I'll just stop share for a moment and then close that.